Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, where twice a month we get together to talk about some of the different trends and topics that are impacting everyone in the digital marketing industry. Joining me today, we have a few members of the Tenlo team. We have Tessa Berg, Sean Hirsch, and Tom Madrolejos. So welcome. Today's topic is cognitive science and how we can really use that to harness the power of human psychology to influence consumer behavior. If you have any questions, add them to the chat. Until then, I'm going to get us started. So a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to talk with Sandeep Dayal on the Leader Generation podcast. And he is a leading mind in marketing strategy and the author of Branding Between the Ears. In that episode, we talked a lot about cognitive science. So I'm really curious to get your thoughts on that episode and see if there were any aha moments for you or key takeaways that you want to share. So who wants to get us started?
I can go first.
Great.
One of the things that really struck me in the interview was his point about the power of empathy. And when we connect with each other on an emotional level, how that does translate into relationships that generate revenue. Because at the end of the day, we are looking for leads. We're looking for this exchange of mutual benefit. And the way he talked about it reminded me a lot of what I tell my kids, like sometimes I think kids, like our clients, are a little too internal facing and they go by the rule, treat others how you want to be treated. But it's really about how others want to be treated. And, we call that the platinum rule. Just treat others how they want to be treated. And in business, sometimes we're so deep in the detail of the features of our product, of the features of what we're selling, we kind of forget that other people are seeing it from their lens of the challenges they're facing and the needs they have. And we have to message them and engage with them how they want to be engaged. So I thought that was really powerful and kind of like, goes across into the theme of human to human marketing and really having that deep empathy as a starting point for your campaigns.
Yeah, that's a great one to point out. And I know personally, I've been seeing just so much content around empathy and how important it is to add into content marketing. And I think like the pandemic really spurred that. And to have marketers take a deeper look at that. So yeah, that's a great point. How about you, Sean? What were some of your aha moments from the episode?
Sort of building off of that point of empathy, I think Sandeep did a great job of highlighting just the importance of emotion in marketing in general. Like Tessa said, sometimes we get so caught up in making sure that all consumers know, here are the features of our product, here are the benefits of it. But like the campaigns that he brought up as examples, like the Dove campaign and the US Navy one, the common thread between both of those is there is that element of emotion. There's an emotional connection there. It wasn't just about conveying like the soap gets you clean. Obviously, we know that, but by bringing in an aspect of empathy and also like a genuine tone to the messaging, I think that just connects and resonates with people so much more powerfully than just that list of benefits that we often see in the space. So that definitely stuck out to me.
Very true. Yeah, I loved his examples. They were really great and helped you better understand some of the points he was making.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, what were your thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, definitely along the same lines. I think something that really stood out to me was his value proposition overall, which is if marketing and branding as industries are pursuing customer and human-centric like paradigms, and we want data at the center of that, then why shouldn't the professionals from the academic like side of psychology and behavioral science. Why shouldn't they be more involved? And I think our industries, we've already been there with like surveys, focus groups, that sort of thing, but it's definitely getting taken a step further. And I would love to see how they contribute going forward.
Yeah, that is interesting. And he and I had an offline conversation about how important research is and how adding just that framework of the cognitive sciences around research can really just give us much better insights into what consumers are thinking. So very cool. So I have a question for Sean. I'm going to put you on the spot. How do you think cognitive science can help you as you're working on UX and UX design?
So I actually really love this episode because I feel like cognitive science is such a huge part of UX and what I do. No matter if it's an email or a landing page, I always have to put on that empathy hat and put myself in whoever our users are going to be, their shoes. And so when he's talking about like meeting users' needs and not just conveying what something does, but figuring out what that like surprise and delight aspect could be, that is definitely something that's top of mind for me when I'm doing the flow for a page or something. Is what's the story we can tell here, and how can we make sure that the payoff has that emotional connection, and it's not just this is what I'm going to do for you, but it's how I'm going to help you or make something in your life easier, or even just make you feel good, and making sure that that's incorporated into whatever the user experience is.
I love that. What a great answer. Let's Tom, how about you? Like, what are your thoughts on your discipline and how cognitive science can be applied to develop marketing strategy?
I would love to see how research and experimentation from the academic world, which has to be built with like a genuine like scientific rigor and buy-in from its own community that validates the results. I would love how to see where that intersects with research and experimentation that's already happening within the product and marketing and technology fields, where we're increasingly using data scientists, employing data scientists, and making data-driven decisions. Like I think there can only be better results and like more rigor when we start to put those two things together. So I would absolutely welcome the academic point of view into marketing strategy and product strategy.
That's great. All right, Tessa.
Yeah, I was like,
you're up.
So eager. So, right now we're looking at platforms that can start to learn from results and start serving the highest and best performing creative. And I'm excited to see how emotion and benefit driven messaging compares to product messaging. And one thing, if I were to have a hypothesis, is that the emotional selling is going to work really well at the top and middle of the funnel. And through, attribution management, we're going to see that those customers come back and convert on a product ad. And maybe that's super obvious. But the reason that I bring it up is because sometimes when we look at ad creative, we look at it in isolation. We don't look at it as, where is this customer experiencing it? And we also don't take into account how it's being delivered. Like today, this year, we are doing a better job of using data science to give us the answer. We don't have to be so subjective when we're sitting down and saying, oh, I like this one because it checks all my boxes. Again, it's like really hard not to do that. I mean, it's like we're having this conversation here. We're all like, oh yeah, we shouldn't do that. And then you get into a client meeting and everybody's coming at it from their own lens. So when I think about, what can technology do better first and foremost, it's show the value of the metrics at the top and be more disciplined in how we show those results. Sometimes we just spit out the back end, like, here's your report, here's a table. It's like, what if we started to pull in more visual results and say, here's where in the journey and what context this user responded to this message, and how does that translate down? I think right now, a lot of times, even if we have really great creative, we're still presenting it, delivering it, and measuring it in isolation. And what tech can do, especially if you're attaching like an application like Canva that, can come up with those different versions all the way down to an attribution model, then you're literally allowing people's behaviors and reactions to your creative to optimize itself. So I think that's a really exciting. I think the hardest part is getting people to buy in and let you do it.
Yeah, that is very true. I think there's just so many places that we can start to leverage the cognitive science and behavioral science within marketing. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now. So it's going to be exciting to see how we continue to incorporate it. So we're about out of time. Is there any last thoughts that anyone has before we close out?
I'm gonna tack one thing onto what Tessa said, because I think it's so important. And it is, as the world becomes more data literate, and as all of our professions we all have to become in our own way. Like, there's real data scientists, but we have to be like citizen data scientists too. Like, we have to understand this stuff. We have to be able to consume this information. I think about what the scientific community has with people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who are there for like public understanding. Like, they're there as practitioners who can do the astrophysics, but they're also like, let me tell you about it, like what this means in these kind of words. And so maybe that's something that, marketing, branding, technology, we can all benefit from, having that layer of like interpersonal communication.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, Tom, because I follow this podcast called AI in Business. And they said the biggest gap right now in AI is the translator role.
Right.
There's people who are really good at data science and building models. And then there are people who are really great at marketing and creating these awesome messages and experiences. And what's in between? Like, who's helping Bring those two deep areas of expertise together?
And has such a big impact on content marketing, because it's like now it's harder and harder to find generalists who will be able to write in depth for an audience about every subject, where it's like, if you're writing about like AI, you have to like partially practice it, and if you really want to get into the details. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's super. Like, I'm gonna do one more shout out. Someone else, but a couple years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Data Science Dojo, which is like a 1-week boot camp. And I saw that from my lens. Like, we saw the description. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. We're going to take this information back and present it to all our clients. And they've been around a while. And then myself and my other coworker who were there were the only two people ever from marketing. And if you think about, like, this place is running dozens of trainings a year, hundreds of people going through this program over the last however long they've been around, like 5-8 years. Only two people from marketing. Like, I was shocked. I was bummed. I was like, we're not there yet. Like, we need the translators. And for people who do love data, if you can fill that role, it will also help in how we determine investment. Because right now, making emotional connection, making creative, like using our human powers, is underinvested, and what's overinvested is trying to find tech that solves it quickly for you. And there is no easy switch. There is no lightning bolt one thing. So if we are able to satisfy, use machine learning where it's best served, but we need people to be able to sell like what that overall vision looks like, so that we can invest where our brains work best, which is creativity. Machines can't have empathy. That's for gosh darn sure.
Yeah, they're not going to take over the world.
Anyway,
Not yet.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to close out this session of office hours. So thank you all for participating, and thank you all for our listeners and everyone who is, watching and taking part from that standpoint. We're going to continue to bring you more episodes, like I said, twice a month, and we're going to cover all kinds of topics. If there's a particular topic you want us to cover, there is a form that you can fill out on our website on tenlo.com. So fill that out and we will make sure we cover it. All right. Thanks again, and we'll see everyone later.
Bye.
bye.
Yeah.